You will not believe what happened to Davis Bertans when he was younger. Bertans grew up with a story that not many people around the world can relate to. He lost half of his ring finger when he was younger, an injury that would devastate any hopes of making it into the NBA, especially because most people need their ring finger to feel the ball coming off their hands. But Bertans weathered the storm and continued working on his craft, now being one of the best three-point shooters in the game right now. There are a ton of players in the NBA that have faced loads of adversity, and Davis Bertans is no exception. Many people know Bertans as a knockdown three-point shooter on the Washington Wizards, although that wasn't his only stop throughout his NBA career. But there is something about Bertans that separates him from the rest of the league, especially in the three-point department. He happens to be missing half of his ring finger, and if you thought that was painful enough, it gets even worse when you realize that he tore the same ACL multiple times during his time playing basketball. I'm sure you're all wondering how the Latvia native lost roughly half of his ring finger, and I have the answer to that. Bertans and his brother Davis were doing chores outside in their grandfather's backyard, with the two doing specific jobs catered to their abilities. Bertans was never allowed to touch the electric saw that their grandfather had in order to cut up trees and make firewood. Bertans and Davis were each assigned one half of the saw in order to chop up the firewood. Davis had the front, while Bertans basically just held up the saw for him. Bertans was bored and probably tired from all the heavy lifting, so he begged Davis to finally switch roles and let him do what he considered the fun stuff. Davis initially refused, but ended up reluctantly accepting, while the rain started to pour down. This caused Bertans to speed up a little bit, even though it was his first time controlling the saw. Everything happened so quickly, neither of them truly realized what had happened. Bertans was wearing an oversized glove, and one end got stuck. The saw swiftly ripped off the fingernail on his middle finger, while slicing half of his ring finger off just above his second knuckle on that finger. Davis said that Bertans didn't scream nor cry, and that there wasn't even that much blood. Instead, he just stood there shocked and in awe still. The two brothers looked for the separated finger as fast as they could before finally jumping into their car and flying over the speed limit in order to get towards a hospital. The ride was over half an hour, and Bertans eventually had to go into surgery to repair the injured finger, although they weren't able to place the tip back onto his hand. Unfortunately for Bertans, he and his brother used to disappear and go to the gym almost every day, always playing basketball, and it had become such a habit for the two of them. They played basketball so much that they had missed meals on certain days trying to make it into the NBA. Davis first got that drive to make it into the NBA because of his dad Davis, who played basketball in Valmiera. Bertans always wanted to be there for his father while modeling his game after his old man, while throwing in some motivation from one of the best to ever do it in Michael Jordan. Bertans would always tell his parents that he would definitely make it into the NBA. Losing a finger certainly crushes that dream though, as his father had told him that his dream of making it into the NBA was more than likely finished. Davis agreed at first, but continued to try and improve his overall game in the gym, only he was struggling very badly and couldn't get the same rhythm that he once had. About a month after the surgery, he admitted to his father that he was probably right, saying, "You know what, I'm going to play soccer or something." Not a bad idea for a kid that was down half a finger and had the athletic abilities to do so. But that was all jokes, as Bertans never separated from his dream of improving and being one of the best to ever lace them up. He began adjusting to his new look hand, and even won a three-point shooting contest at a junior all-star game. He said that victory was a very special moment for him, and how it was sort of a confidence boost for him. A few years later, he was a member of the San Antonio Spurs despite the loss of his finger, with the half finger being made fun of more than being a true injury. While all of the Spurs scouts noticed it when they went to see him play, his abilities were so solid that they didn't even care about it. Longtime player Rudy Gay said that it grossed him out, but besides those guys, not many teammates noticed when he first entered the league. Bertans is so locked in on basketball that he had this to say over the incident. "I was just lucky I only lost that finger, but even if I had lost more, I would have probably switched to the left hand if I had to." It seems like nothing was going to stop him from reaching his NBA dream, and look how it worked out. Roughly 8 years after the NBA commissioner Adam Silver first called out his name on the podium, Bertans was flying around screens and dashing through lanes all over the basketball court. When the ball reached his hands behind the three-point arc, he was flinging three-point shots in less than a second in real time with fantastic overall form that not many players have besides Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant. The Spurs led the league in three-point percentage that year, led by Bertans at 40%. While also shooting the lowest number of threes per game at just 25. separating Davis from the rest of the group for a second, and the stats will show that he was firing away at a 46.2% clip. A shooting percentage that high will make opposing fans scared every time the ball leaves his hands. It was truly shocking to see him not named to the three-point contest that year, though. However, he eventually found his way into the contest a little later down the road. Sadly, he didn't win that competition, but he did make the entire contest far more entertaining for the fans, while also shocking the world at how well he could shoot the ball without half of a finger. He was named to that contest because of his rapid emergence in the league on the Washington Wizards. He was thrust into the starting lineup one year because the majority of their roster was decimated by injuries, and he fit right into the rotation. He was knocking down three-pointers fast and efficiently, while earning more and more playing time as the season had drawn on. The next 16 games, he was able to knock down at least 4 three-pointers per game at a blistering 48.4% clip, with the hot streak continuing for months down the road. Their head coach Scott Brooks had this to say about Bertans after he knocked down 7 threes in a game against the Philadelphia 76ers. "You just smile. He makes it look so easy. It's only maybe a few people in the league that can take those shots and have the confidence to take and make them." And that is 100% true. We don't get to see sharpshooters take threes with that much confidence nowadays outside of the Splash Brothers. He puts so much pressure on opposing defenses and stretches them out and confuses them. If there are other offensive weapons on the floor with Bertans, teams will have to defend against them while not ignoring Bertans for even a second. He could fling a three in less than that. There aren't many teams that can cover everybody at one time, and opposing organizations are always worried that he will burst open and get a clean look, devastating opposing teams' fans around the stadium just as the ball leaves his hand, because everybody knows what will happen next. Scott Brooks wasn't the only person who praised Bertans' excellent shooting, though. DeMar DeRozan was the man who was glowing while talking about Davis as a basketball player and a three-point specialist. He made an appearance on the Old Man and the Three podcast that was hosted by JJ Redick. The two reflected on DeMar's experience with the Spurs in his first year with the team, with Bertans happening to be on the roster at that time as well. DeRozan said that throughout his 11 years in the NBA with the Toronto Raptors, he had never seen a player similar to Davis Bertans. He went on to say that he was getting more comfortable handling the ball as the season was dragging on, but that he had the privilege of playing with fantastic three-point shooters, stopping for a second, then mentioning Bertans specifically, saying, "Bertans, one of the best three-point shooters I've played with in my career."
I got more comfortable handling the ball. I got more comfortable playmaking for guys. I started playing with a lot more shooters. My first year in San Antonio, I played with a couple shooters. Bertans, my first year, one of the best shooters I played with in my career. It was probably preseason. He came to me and told me, like, "Man, thanks. I ain't never got this many open shots, this many open threes. Like, man."
This quote is even more important when you realize that Bertans was only putting up 8 points per game that year on 6 shot attempts per contest. This means that DeRozan had studied Bertans' game during practice and scrimmage and had known Bertans' shooting ability despite his stats not showing his full potential. This proves how valuable he is to the game, even if his numbers aren't up to par with the likes of Curry and Clay, which nobody will be for a long time, by the way. I think that Bertans will continue to generate praise like this throughout the rest of his career as well, before eventually being named to more three-point contests and maybe even an all-star game if he's able to get into the starting lineup consistently and explodes onto the scene as a ball handler. Without a doubt, he is one of the best shooters that we have in this league, and we may not get to see much of that due to the Wizards not being that competitive this year, and the fact that he's overshadowed by Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. But his value and sharp shooting ability cannot be understated. He is a star in this league. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Also, remember to tune into our next video for more amazing content that you aren't going to want to miss out on.